Hi, my name is Grayson McCroskey, and today I'm going to be talking about renewable energy and non-renewable energy. Now, what is renewable and non-renewable energy? Renewable energy is energy from a source that is not depleted when used, such as solar energy or wind energy. And non-renewable energy is basically the exact opposite. It is energy from a source that is depleted when used, for example coal or oil, where it will not last forever and it only has a certain amount of time before all of it is gone. Now, moving on, for my renewable energy, I use wind energy. Now, what we're going to be talking about is what is it and where did it come from, how it produces energy that we can use in our home, the pros and cons of wind energy, the environmental impact that it has on us and our society, and the costs involved, including building and the cost per watt. Now, wind energy is power obtained by harnessing the energy from wind. And wind is air in motion. Wind forms when the sun heats one part of the atmosphere differently than the other part. This causes expansion of warmer air, making less pressure where it is warm than where it is cooler. Air always moves from high pressure to lower pressure, and this movement of air is called wind. Now, the first electricity generating wind turbine was invented in Cleveland, Ohio by Charles F. Bush in the year of 1888. The turbine's diameter was 17 meters or 50 feet. It had 144 rotor blades made of cedar wood, and it generated about 12 kilowatts of power. Now, although the first electricity generating wind turbine was invented in 1888, the idea was actually used as early as 5000 BC. It was used to propel boats along the Nile River, and the Persians used it to pump water and grind grain between 500 and 900 BC. Now, as the cultures harnessed the power that the wind offered, the idea of windmills actually spread all the way from Persia to surrounding areas in the Middle East, where windmills were used extensively in food production. Now, eventually, around 1000 AD, wind power technology spread north to European countries such as the Netherlands, which adapted windmills to help drain lakes and marshes in the Rhine River Delta. Now, how does a wind turbine conduct electricity? Well, wind turbines operate on a pretty simple principle. The kinetic energy in the wind turns the propeller-like blades around a rotor. The rotor is connected to the main shaft inside of the turbine, which spins a generator to create mechanical energy. Now, although wind energy is good for our environment, it has cons just like anything else. But before that, I'm going to start with the pros. So first of all, it's clean energy. This means that it produces no pollution because the only thing it is using to power the wind turbines is the wind itself. The next one is that it's cost effective. This means that in the long run, the wind turbines are actually less expensive than coal and oil, because even though it's expensive to set up, we aren't putting that much money over time to keep it running. Then the last one is it can be built on existing farms. This means that if there is a farm or piece of land that is unused or got abandoned, we can put wind turbines on that land and use that to produce electricity, which is overall helping our environment because instead of turning to coal and oil, we are turning to wind power. So now moving on to the cons of wind energy. The first one is that it relies on wind. So in the US, I'm sure you know that the wind is not always at its strongest. Sometimes it's weaker than other points in time, and therefore these wind turbines that are powered by the wind will not be able to generate the amount of electricity that we want them to. The next point is that it hurts wildlife. Every year, birds fly by in the migrating season and actually get hit by the blades on the turbines and get killed. Annually, these wind turbines kill between 214,000 and 368,000 birds. Our next point is it's expensive to set up. So setting it up, we need the materials and the construction enabled to have this massive thing be built. So the cost of a normal wind turbine in the US is approximately $3 to $4 million Now, our last point is that it's only suitable for certain locations. So wind turbines can only be placed on large amounts of grass, for example, because you cannot put a large-scale wind turbine on top of the Empire State Building because it just doesn't have enough room. You need to find fields and places like existing farms and able to build wind farms and these wind turbines to generate electricity. So now the impact on the environment. So there are two main impacts I want to go over, one positive and one negative. So the first one is no pollution. Wind energy is completely clean energy, like I stated in my pros and cons list, meaning that there are no CO2 emissions or any pollution in total coming out when we use this energy. That is extremely important because as we are turning away from coal and oil, we need to be looking at the long-term impacts that it's leaving on our environment. Now moving on to the negative impacts is that it hurts wildlife. Like I stated before, birds during migrating season will actually go down by the wind turbines, and 200 to basically 300,000 each year will be killed because they're flying into the blades of these turbines and not expecting to be harmed. So now the last point I'm going to talk about with wind energy is the cost. So like I stated before, to set up a utility scale wind turbine, it costs roughly $3 to $4 million. And this is not counting the repairs that you have to make on the wind turbines. Now, for the cost per watt, it is roughly $2 for a large-scale wind turbine. So now moving on from wind energy, we're going to our non-renewable energy resource, which is oil. So crude oil is an unrefined petroleum product composed of hydrocarbon deposits and other organic materials. Most of us believe that the first time oil was drilled was during the late 1850s in the United States. What most people don't know is actually the first oil wells are believed to have been drilled in China around 350 AD. These were drilled using bits attached to bamboo poles and extending as deep as 800 feet. Countries other than China also have drilled before the US. In 1853, the world's first commercial oil well was drilled in Poland, and the second was drilled in Romania in 1857. While the first U.S. oil well was drilled in 1858 in Oil Springs, Ontario. Now I'm sure we've all heard of a major catastrophe of oil, and that is the Gulf of Mexico oil spill. This happened in April 20th, 2010, and actually harmed more than 114,000 animals. So like I stated before, or you probably already know, oil is a non-renewable resource. Unlike wind, there's not an unlimited amount of oil in the world. So how long will oil last? Well, it will last 53.3 more years at the current rate of extraction. So saying that if we keep on using at the same rate we are today, then oil will only last 53.3 years until it is all completely gone. So the last thing I want to talk about are the impacts that oil has on animals, plants, and humans. My first point is that the oil spills, like the one in Gulf of Mexico, it hurt the environment as well as the wildlife, like the 114,000 animals and the many plants that were in the water at the time. The next point is CO2 emissions. CO2 emissions are released when drilling for oil. They are also released when a car powered by oil is running. CO2 emissions affect humans because when emissions are released into the air, it makes the air more unclean, affecting people with diseases like asthma and making it harder for them to breathe. So that leads me to the end of this video, and I just want to thank you all for watching. But before I leave, I just wanted to say that I hope you all understand how wind energy works, and that you can see that by switching to clean energy, it would be for the best. So again, my name is Grayson McCroskey, and thank you for watching.